Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Let me ask you something honestly. Have you ever tried to forget someone, but somehow their presence never completely leaves your heart? You told yourself it was over. You tried to move forward. You convinced yourself that chapter of your life had already closed. But then something strange keeps happening. Their name suddenly appears in your thoughts. A memory of them returns when you least expect it. Sometimes you even catch yourself wondering how they are, even after so much time has passed. And deep inside your heart, a quiet question begins to grow. Why does this person still feel connected to me? Why does it feel like someone's heart is still waiting? Is it just emotion? Is it just memory? Or could it be something deeper that Allah placed between two hearts? What if the connection you feel is not random at all? What if Allah sometimes allows two hearts to recognize each other long before the story is ready to unfold? What if distance, time, and silence are not always the end of the story, but part of how Allah prepares two souls for something greater? In this video, we will uncover a powerful truth many people never realize: why Allah sometimes keeps one person's heart mysteriously connected to yours, even when life seems to take you in different directions. And by the end of this reminder, you may begin to understand something beautiful about the way Allah writes the stories of our hearts, the mysterious way Allah connects certain hearts before they even meet. One of the most mysterious experiences a person can have in life is meeting someone for the first time, yet feeling as if you have known them for a very long time. You speak to them only once, but the conversation feels natural. There is no awkwardness, no struggle to understand each other. Words flow easily, and the heart feels strangely calm in their presence. It is as if something inside you quietly recognizes them. You cannot explain it logically, you cannot prove it, but you feel it, a sense of familiarity, a sense of comfort, a sense that this person somehow belongs in your story. Many people experience this moment and assume it is just coincidence or a random emotional reaction, but Islam gives us a deeper and far more beautiful explanation. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, once said that souls are like gathered armies. Those that recognize each other are naturally drawn together, and those that do not recognize each other remain distant. Think about the depth of that wisdom. It means that sometimes the connection between two hearts did not begin the day they first met in this world. Sometimes the connection existed long before that moment. Sometimes the soul recognizes another soul in a way that the mind cannot fully understand. This is why certain people enter your life and immediately feel familiar. Your heart feels at ease around them. Your conversations carry a natural warmth. Your presence with them feels calm instead of heavy. It is not forced. It is not confusing. It simply feels right, because sometimes Allah allows two souls to recognize each other when their paths finally cross. And this recognition can feel powerful. But here is something important to understand. A strong connection does not always mean an immediate union. Just because two hearts recognize each other does not mean their story will unfold quickly. Sometimes Allah allows two hearts to meet only to begin a journey of preparation, because while the souls may recognize each other, the lives of those two people may still need time to align. Sometimes Allah places a connection between two hearts so that both people begin a process of growth, a process that strengthens their faith, a process that shapes their character, a process that prepares them for the future that Allah may be writing. And during this time, the connection between the hearts may remain quietly alive, even through distance, even through silence, even through the passage of time. Because when Allah connects souls, the recognition can leave a deep imprint on the heart. It becomes something you cannot easily erase, something you cannot easily forget. And sometimes, years later, you realize that the meeting was never random. It was written. It was allowed by Allah. It was part of a story that only He fully understands. And this is why, when certain hearts meet, the feeling is not loud or chaotic. It is quiet. It is calm. It is familiar, as if the soul is whispering, "I have known this heart before." The delay Allah uses to purify two hearts before bringing them together. One of the most difficult things for the human heart to accept is delay. When we feel something deeply, when we believe someone may be important to our future, Our natural instinct is to want the story to unfold immediately. We want clarity. We want certainty. We want the connection to turn into something real without waiting. But Allah does not work according to human impatience. Allah works according to perfect wisdom. And sometimes, what feels like delay is actually one of the greatest forms of mercy, because the truth is that not every heart is ready for the blessing it desires. Sometimes we ask Allah for something beautiful, while parts of our character are still unprepared to protect it. Sometimes we carry insecurities that could damage a relationship. Sometimes we carry emotional wounds from the past that have not yet healed. Sometimes our faith is still growing, and if Allah gave us everything we wanted immediately, we might lose it just as quickly. So Allah delays what the heart desires, not to punish you, not to ignore your dua, but to prepare you. During that waiting period, something powerful begins to happen. Allah slowly begins shaping your heart. He teaches you patience. He teaches you emotional strength. He teaches you how to control your impulses and your expectations. He removes arrogance. He removes unhealthy attachments. He replaces them with humility and trust. And slowly, the heart begins to mature. At the same time, the other person may also be going through their own journey. Perhaps Allah is also preparing them. Perhaps they are learning lessons that will make them a better partner. Perhaps their life circumstances are being rearranged in ways they cannot yet see. Perhaps Allah is guiding both of you through different paths until the moment arrives when those paths can safely meet. Because a connection that arrives too early can easily collapse, but a connection that arrives after preparation carries strength. It carries wisdom. It carries barakah. Think about how many relationships in this world fail because people rush into them without being ready, without emotional maturity, without patience, without understanding what it means to care for another heart. Allah knows this, and because He knows this, sometimes He protects a relationship by delaying it. Sometimes He keeps two hearts apart until the moment when both hearts are strong enough to protect what they are asking for. And when that moment finally arrives, what once felt like painful waiting suddenly begins to make sense. You realize that if things had happened earlier, the story might have broken. But because Allah delayed it, the foundation became stronger. This is why patience is so powerful in Islam. Because patience is not simply waiting. Patience is trusting that while you are waiting, Allah is working. He is arranging events. He is shaping hearts. He is protecting destinies. He is preparing a future that you cannot yet see. And sometimes, the most beautiful love stories are not the ones that happen quickly. They are the ones that survive the test of time. The ones where Allah purified the hearts first, and then brought them together when they were finally ready. When separation is not the end, but Allah quietly rewriting the story. One of the most painful moments a person can experience is when someone who once felt close suddenly becomes distant. There was a time when their presence felt natural in your life. You spoke often, you understood each other, you felt a connection that seemed meaningful and real. And then slowly, something changes. Conversations become less frequent. Distance begins to grow. Circumstances shift. And before you realize it, the person who once felt so present in your life becomes only a memory. For many people, this moment feels like the end of the story. The heart begins to tell itself that everything is over, that whatever connection once existed has completely disappeared. But life is not always that simple. Sometimes, what appears to be an ending is actually a pause written by Allah, a pause that carries wisdom we cannot immediately understand, because sometimes two people meet at a moment in life when both of them are still incomplete. Their hearts may recognize each other, but their lives may still be heading in different directions. One person may still be discovering who they are. Another may still be healing from experiences that shaped them. Circumstances around them may not yet be stable enough for something lasting to grow. And if their story continued at that moment, it might break under the weight of those unfinished journeys. So Allah allows distance to appear, not always to erase the connection, but sometimes to protect it. Distance can be painful, but it can also be a powerful teacher. It forces a person to reflect. It forces growth. It forces both hearts to face parts of themselves that may have been ignored before. During that time apart, both people begin to change. Life teaches them lessons. Faith deepens. Character matures. Priorities become clearer. The person you were when you first met them is not always the same person you become later. And the same is true for them. This is why sometimes Allah separates two paths temporarily, because each person needs time to become who they are meant to be. And sometimes, when those journeys unfold, Allah brings those paths back together again in ways no one expected. Years may pass, leaves may change, but when two people meet again after growth and maturity, the connection can feel deeper, calmer, and stronger than before. Not rushed, not chaotic, but guided by wisdom. Of course, my brothers and sisters, not every separation leads to reunion. Sometimes Allah allows distance because something better is written for you. But there are also moments where separation is simply part of the journey. A chapter where Allah rewrites the hearts involved. A chapter where He prepares both souls for something more stable, more mature, and more meaningful. Because Allah sees what we cannot see. He understands the future we do not yet understand. And sometimes He closes a door for a while, only to reopen it later with greater wisdom. So if you ever experience a separation that leaves questions in your heart, remember this: not every goodbye is permanent. Sometimes it is simply a moment where Allah says, "Not yet," because the story is still being written. When separation is not the end, but Allah quietly rewriting the story, one of the heaviest feelings the human heart can experience is separation. There are moments in life when someone enters your world and their presence begins to feel meaningful. You grow used to their words. You grow used to their presence. Their voice becomes familiar. Their thoughts become comforting. And slowly their place in your life begins to feel natural. You begin to imagine that perhaps this person will always remain in your story. But then something changes. Life moves in a different direction. Circumstances shift. Distance appears where closeness once existed. The conversations that once felt effortless begin to fade. And suddenly, the person who once felt so close becomes someone you no longer see in your daily life. For many hearts, this moment feels like the end. The mind begins to whisper painful thoughts. Maybe the connection was never real. Maybe it meant more to me than it did to them. Maybe the story was only temporary. And slowly the heart begins to close the chapter. But my brothers and sisters, sometimes what feels like an ending is actually something much deeper. Sometimes separation is not the end of the story. Sometimes it is the moment when Allah quietly begins rewriting it. Because the truth is that two people can meet at a time when their lives are not yet aligned. Their hearts may recognize something meaningful, but their journeys may still be incomplete. One person may still be learning important lessons about life. Another may still be healing from wounds they have not fully faced. Sometimes responsibilities, circumstances, or personal struggles make it impossible for the connection to grow in a healthy way. And if the relationship continued during that moment, it might collapse under the pressure of those unfinished realities. So Allah allows distance to appear, not always to erase the connection, but sometimes to protect both hearts from a future that could become painful. Distance can feel like loss, but distance can also become a place where transformation begins. When someone leaves your daily life, something powerful happens inside the heart. You begin to reflect more deeply. You begin to grow. You begin to understand yourself in ways you never did before. Your priorities begin to change. Your relationship with Allah may become stronger. And slowly, the person you are begins to evolve. At the same time, the other person may also be going through their own journey. Their life may be shaping them in ways you cannot see. They may be facing challenges that are building their character. They may be learning lessons that will transform who they become in the future. Both hearts may be walking different paths, but those paths may still be moving toward a moment that only Allah fully understands. Because Allah sees the entire picture of destiny, we only see small pieces. And sometimes, when two people meet again after time has changed them, the connection feels different, stronger, calmer, more mature. The confusion that once existed disappears. The emotional chaos fades away. What remains is clarity. Two people who have grown. two hearts that have been shaped by experience, two souls that are finally ready for what they once were not ready for. But there is also an important truth to remember. Not every separation is meant to lead back to reunion. Sometimes Allah removes someone from your life because something better is written ahead. Sometimes the purpose of the connection was simply to teach you a lesson, to shape your heart, or to guide you closer to Allah. And even those temporary connections carry meaning, because every person Allah allows into your life serves a purpose in your journey. But there are also moments when separation is simply a chapter in a longer story, a chapter where Allah allows both hearts to grow before the story continues. And this is why patience is so powerful, because while you may see distance, Allah may still be guiding the story forward in ways you cannot see. So if you ever experience a separation that leaves unanswered questions in your heart, remember something important. Allah is the best of planners. He knows when two paths should meet. He knows when two paths should separate. And He knows if those paths will cross again. Because sometimes what feels like the end is simply the moment when Allah pauses the story before continuing it in a way far more beautiful than we imagined. The silent power of a heart that waits with trust in Allah. We live in a time where everything around us teaches impatience. People want quick answers, quick success, quick relationships. If something takes time, many people assume it is not meant to be. If something becomes difficult, the world immediately says, replace it, move on, find something else. But the heart that truly trusts Allah learns something very different. It learns the quiet strength of waiting, not a waiting that is filled with anxiety, not a waiting that traps the heart in constant emotional attachment, but a waiting that is built on trust, a calm trust that says, Allah knows what I do not know. Because sometimes a heart continues to feel connected to someone, even when circumstances are unclear. Time passes, distance may appear, life becomes busy with other responsibilities, yet somewhere deep inside, the heart still wonders, what if this story is not finished yet? What if Allah is still writing something I cannot see? In those moments, many people fall into two extremes. Some people become impatient and begin chasing what they want, forcing situations that were never meant to be forced. Others close their hearts completely and lose hope. But the believer walks a different path. The believer understands that what is written will come, and what is not written will never remain. So instead of chasing the future, the believer focuses on strengthening their relationship with Allah. They improve themselves, they build their character, they protect their faith, they grow emotionally and spiritually. And while all of this is happening, the heart quietly places its trust in Allah's plan. This is the true meaning of tawakkul. Tawakkul is not simply hoping something will happen. Tawakkul is believing that whatever Allah chooses for you will always be better than what you could have chosen for yourself. It is believing that if someone is truly written for your life, Allah will guide them back to you in the right way and at the right time. And if they are not written for you, Allah will remove them from your heart and replace them with something far greater, because Allah does not take something away from a believer without preparing something better. This is why the heart that trusts Allah does not panic when life becomes uncertain. It does not run after what is unclear. It does not allow emotions to control every decision. Instead, it becomes patient. It becomes calm. It focuses on becoming the person Allah wants it to become. And something beautiful begins to happen. When a heart reaches this level of trust, peace begins to enter the heart, because the heart no longer feels the burden of controlling the future. It no longer feels the pressure of forcing outcomes. It understands that destiny belongs to Allah alone. And this is where true emotional strength begins, because the strongest hearts are not the ones that chase endlessly. The strongest hearts are the ones that trust deeply. They say quietly, if this person is written for me, nothing in this world can stop it. And if they are not written for me, Allah will guide my heart towards something even better. This kind of trust frees the heart from fear. It frees the heart from desperation. It allows the heart to live with dignity and patience. And sometimes, while that heart is busy growing closer to Allah, destiny begins moving quietly in the background. Situations begin to change. Paths begin to cross again. Doors begin to open. that once seemed completely closed. Because when a heart places its trust in Allah, Allah often writes endings far more beautiful than the heart could have imagined. When Allah protects a connection because the timing is not yet right, one of the hardest truths for the heart to accept is that sometimes something beautiful appears in your life, but it cannot stay at that moment. You meet someone who feels meaningful. The connection feels sincere. There is respect, understanding, and a sense that this person may hold an important place in your future. But then something unexpected happens. Circumstances begin to interfere. Life becomes complicated. Distance appears. Responsibilities grow heavier, and the connection that once seemed so close suddenly becomes uncertain. Many people immediately assume that if something does not work right away, it was never meant to be. But this is not always true. Sometimes the connection itself is real. Sometimes the sincerity between two hearts is genuine, but the timing is simply not right. And Allah, in His wisdom, protects something beautiful by delaying it, because timing can determine whether something grows into peace or turns into pain. Imagine two people who care about each other but meet during a moment when their lives are unstable. One person may still be trying to build their future. Another may still be dealing with emotional wounds from the past. Financial struggles, family circumstances, or personal responsibilities may create pressure that makes a relationship difficult to protect. If those two people tried to build something permanent during that moment, the weight of those difficulties might slowly destroy the connection. Misunderstandings would increase. Stress would grow. The beauty that once existed between them could slowly turn into frustration and disappointment. But Allah sees what we cannot see. He knows the future before it unfolds. He understands the weaknesses in our hearts that we may not even recognize yet. So sometimes Allah separates two paths, not to break the connection, but to protect it from being destroyed by the wrong moment. This delay can feel painful because the heart only sees the present. It feels the absence. It feels the uncertainty. It wonders why something that felt so meaningful could not simply continue. But Allah is the best of planners. He protects what is meant to last. Sometimes He delays something beautiful until both hearts become strong enough to protect it, until life circumstances become stable, until both individuals grow into the people they need to be, until the relationship can exist in a way that brings peace rather than struggle. And when the right moment finally arrives, everything begins to make sense. The obstacles that once blocked the path disappear. Situations that once felt impossible suddenly become manageable. What once seemed complicated becomes simple because the timing is now aligned. This is why patience is one of the greatest qualities a believer can develop, because patience allows you to trust that Allah is protecting your future even when you cannot see how. Sometimes the delay you experience is not a rejection, it is protection. Sometimes Allah removes someone temporarily from your life because the moment you met them was not the moment you were meant to build a future. But if that connection is truly written for you, the story will not end because of timing. Allah will reopen the path when the moment is finally right. And if that person is not meant to remain in your life, Allah will guide your heart towards something even better, something more peaceful, something more stable, something that arrives at exactly the right moment. Because when Allah writes a connection between two hearts, He also writes the timing, and His timing is always perfect. The unstoppable truth that what Allah writes for your heart cannot miss you. One of the greatest comforts a believer can hold on to in life is this simple but powerful truth: what Allah has written for you will never miss you. No human being has the power to take away what Allah has destined for your life. No distance can erase it. No misunderstanding can cancel it. No delay can destroy it, because when Allah writes something for your heart, the entire world cannot stop it from reaching you. Many people live their lives in fear. They fear losing someone they care about. They fear that time will take away something meaningful. They fear that another person may appear and change the direction of the story. But Islam teaches us that destiny is not controlled by human hands. Destiny is written by Allah alone. Before we were even born, before our lives began in this world, Allah already knew the people we would meet. He knew the hearts that would cross our path. He knew the moments that would change our lives. And He wrote everything with perfect knowledge. So if a heart is truly written for yours, nothing can permanently block it. Sometimes the journey may become complicated. Sometimes there may be distance, silence, or confusion for a period of time. Sometimes life may push two people onto different paths for a while. But if Allah has written that those paths will meet again, they will meet again. Because Allah controls the movement of hearts and destinies in ways no human mind can fully understand. Situations will begin to change. Unexpected opportunities will appear. Paths that once felt completely separated may suddenly cross again. Conversations may begin again after years of silence. Doors that once seemed closed forever may open in the most unexpected ways. And when these moments happen, people often call them coincidence. But the believer understands something deeper. The believer understands that Allah is guiding the story, that what was written is simply unfolding. But this truth also brings another important lesson. If someone is not written for your life, no amount of chasing can make them stay. No amount of effort can force a destiny that Allah did not write. Sometimes people exhaust themselves trying to hold on to someone who was never meant to remain in their story. They chase, they worry, they overthink every moment. But peace comes when the heart understands that it does not need to chase what Allah has already written. What is meant for you will arrive without you losing your dignity. What is meant for you will stay without you begging for it. What is meant for you will grow in a way that feels natural and peaceful. Because Allah never asks a believer to humiliate their heart for something that is truly theirs. And this understanding frees the heart from fear. You no longer worry about losing what is written. You no longer feel anxious about every small uncertainty. Instead, your heart becomes calm. It becomes steady because you know that the one who controls the entire universe is also the one who controls your destiny. And He does not make mistakes. So if a heart is truly meant to walk beside yours in this life, it will find its way to you. Maybe not quickly, maybe not in the way you expected, but in the way that Allah knows is best. And when it finally arrives, you will realize something beautiful. That all the waiting, all the confusion, and all the uncertainty were simply steps leading toward a destiny that was always written for you. Before we end, take a quiet moment with me. If there is someone in your heart right now, someone whose story still feels unfinished, someone you once made dua for, or maybe someone you are still praying for, place that feeling gently in the hands of Allah, because Allah knows every secret of the heart. He knows the tears you never showed anyone. He knows the prayers you whispered late at night. He knows the hopes you carried silently while trusting Him. So raise your heart to Allah and say, Ya Allah, if this heart is truly written for mine, then bring us together in a way that pleases you. Bring us together with halal, with peace, and with barakah. Remove every obstacle that stands between what you have written for us. But Ya Allah, if this person is not written for my life, then remove their attachment from my heart with mercy. Replace it with something better than what I imagined. Give me a love that brings me closer to you, not farther from you. A love that fills my life with peace, respect, and faith. Ya Allah, protect our hearts from chasing what was never meant for us. Guide us toward what you have already written for our destiny. Grant us patience when the road feels long. Grant us trust when the future feels uncertain. And grant us the beautiful moment when we finally understand the wisdom behind your plan. Because, Ya Allah, we know that whatever you choose for us will always be better than what we choose for ourselves. Ameen.